Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at a 2011 classic that blends biography, comedy, and drama, Heidi. After spending 5 years cooped up with her Aunt Deet, a little orphan named Heidi is finally getting some fresh air. Her aunt is dragging her up to the Swiss Alps to live with her grandfather. Turns out Deet scored a job in Frankfurt and can't take Heidi along. She completely ignores the neighbors' warnings that Grandpa is a grumpy, antisocial hermit who might even be dangerous. On the hike up, Heidi decides she's had enough of fashion and ditches her boots and dress to run around in her undergarments. Total freedom. But as soon as they arrive, Grandpa Alpoe isn't exactly welcoming. He tries to kick them out immediately, making it clear he has zero interest in raising a kid. Deet pretends to give in, but she actually sneaks Heidi behind the house, tells her to stay put, and then literally runs away. Grandpa catches her fleeing and loses his cool, but Heidi tells him she doesn't want her aunt anyway. Still refusing to play dad, Alpoe locks the door on her, so Heidi spends her first night sleeping in the barn with the goats. The next morning, Grandpa softens up just a tiny bit, giving her some goat milk for breakfast before taking her to church. The priest gives Heidi a once-over and declares her healthy and strong. The priest tells Alpoe it's his duty to look after his own flesh and blood, but since Grandpa still isn't budging, the priest says he'll be back in 3 days to take Heidi to town and find a farmer who can put her to work.
Back at the cabin, Heidi asks if she's back in the barn tonight, but Grandpa tells her she can sleep wherever she wants. Since there's only one bed and one chair in the whole place, Heidi explores. She finds a ladder leading to an attic full of hay. She decides this is her new bedroom and tells Alpoe she'd actually prefer to stay, but he just gives her the silent treatment. The next day, a young goat herd named Peter shows up. Grandpa sees an opportunity and asks Peter to take Heidi along for the day to show her the ropes of mountain life. Packed with some cheese and sausage, Heidi is thrilled. She spends the whole day running through the meadows with the goats, loving every second of being outside. While she's distracted, Peter sneaks a bite of her food and tries to blame it on the goats. Suddenly, 2 goats start brawling, and Peter starts hitting them with a stick to break it up. Heidi is not having it. She shuts him down and offers a deal. If he never hits a goat again, she'll share half her lunch with him every single day. Peter agrees, but warns her not to tell Alpoe. He mentions the town gossip that Grandpa allegedly killed someone in the past.
When Heidi gets home, she's acting a little weird around Grandpa, saying she'll just sleep in the barn. Alpoe figures out she's heard the rumors. He asks her one simple question. Who do you trust more, rumors or your own eyes and ears? Heidi chooses to trust her own heart and gives him a big hug before heading to the attic. The next day, while Heidi is out bonding with Peter, Grandpa gets to work on some carpentry. He's clearly moved by her affection because when Heidi comes home, she finds a second chair at the table, and the best news ever, she's staying for good. Weeks fly by. Heidi is having the time of her life, even cutting her hair short for comfort. But then Peter drops a bombshell. He's heading off to school for the winter and won't see her until spring. Heidi wants to go to school too, and the neighbors keep nagging Grandpa about her needing an education. Alpoe refuses, pointing out that no kid can trek down a mountain in the middle of a brutal winter just for class.
Winter hits and things get a bit dull. Grandpa carves her a little wooden bird to cheer her up, but when that doesn't work, he builds a sleigh. They end up having an absolute blast sledding down the mountain so Heidi can have a play date at Peter's. She meets his mom and blind grandmother, but it's a sad sight. They're struggling. The grandmother can barely eat because she's lost her teeth and all they have is rock-hard bread. Peter is also failing school because he doesn't see why a goat herd needs to read. Years pass in peace until Aunt Deet suddenly reappears. She claims she's found a great opportunity for Heidi to live with her rich employers, go to school, and make friends. Grandpa sees right through her and refuses to let her go. He points out that Deet is only showing up now because it suits her. Deet gets defensive, but when she can't convince Alpoe, she sneaks up the mountain to find Heidi.
Heidi says she wants to stay, but Deet manipulates her, lying and saying that Grandpa actually wants her to leave for her own good. Heartbroken, Heidi agrees to go. Grandpa realizes what happened and races to town, but he's too late. Deet and Heidi are already gone. In Frankfurt, Heidi is dropped off at the Sesemann mansion. She meets the staff and the strict governess, Fraulein Rottenmeier. Rottenmeier is horrified. She thinks Heidi is a wild animal with zero manners, but Deet reminds her they wanted a simple, unspoiled girl to be a companion for the daughter of the house, Clara. Heidi meets Clara, who is in a wheelchair and can't walk. The 2 girls bond instantly. When Heidi accidentally knocks over a table, Clara even lies to protect her.
But life in the mansion is like a cage for Heidi. They scrub her down, put her in stiff dresses, and give her a list of rules. No running, no shouting, and strict table manners. Things get awkward when everyone realizes Heidi can't read. Rottenmeier wants to kick her out, but she has to wait for Clara's dad to return from a trip. Heidi tries to adapt, but she's miserable. She dreams of the mountains every night and starts hoarding bread rolls in her pockets. She and Clara become best friends.
Clara reveals she lost the use of her legs after her mother died. She's been lonely and trapped until Heidi showed up. One day, Heidi asks the butler, Sebastian, to open a window so she can see the mountains. He tells her the city is too flat. The only way to see that far is from the tallest tower in town.
Heidi decides to sneak Clara out for an adventure. They find the tower, and while Clara waits below, Heidi climbs to the top, only to find more city, no mountains. Clara's mood is lifted, though, when they find a man selling kittens and decide to buy the whole litter. Back at the house, Rottenmeier is having a panic attack because the girls are missing. Sebastian finds them, and Clara manages to hide the kittens under a blanket. But the secret is out when the kittens jump out during dinner. Rottenmeier has a massive allergic reaction, which is honestly pretty hilarious for everyone else. As punishment, Heidi is banned from eating dinner and forced to stand in a corner. Rottenmeier even threatens to throw her in the rat-infested cellar. Heidi tries to run away that night with her stash of bread for Peter's grandma, but Rottenmeier stops her. Heidi's mental health starts into a downward spiral, and Clara stops leaving her room. Eventually, Clara realizes Heidi's misery and tells her it's okay if she needs to leave. But before that can happen, Clara's dad, Mr. Sesamin, and his mother arrive. Mr. Sesamin is thrilled to see Clara looking so much happier, but Rottenmeier tries to convince him that Heidi is a lost cause who won't learn to read.
Clara's grandmother decides to judge for herself. That night, she starts reading Heidi a bedtime story, but stops halfway, telling Heidi she has to finish it herself. Heidi admits she thought reading was useless, but Grandma Sesamin encourages her. Because Heidi's dying to know how the story ends, she finally starts putting in the work. Grandma tells her son that Heidi is a brilliant kid, but she's clearly fading away in this house. Mr. Sesamin doesn't want to let her go because she's the only thing making Clara happy. Then the mansion starts getting spooky. Every night people hear weird noises and find the front door open. The staff is convinced there's a ghost. Mr. Sesamin and a doctor set a trap with guns, but they don't find a ghost. They find Heidi sleepwalking. She's been walking to the door every night, staring into the distance and then curling up at the foot of her bed like she's sleeping with the goats. They find her secret stash of bread in the closet, and the doctor realizes she is physically ill from homesickness. Mr. Sesamin finally realizes he's being selfish. He decides he has to send Heidi home. Clara is devastated and has a total meltdown, refusing to even say goodbye. The servants pack Heidi a basket of fresh bread and treats. Heidi leaves her wooden bird for Clara and makes her father promise she'll visit one day. Rottenmeier thinks she's finally got her peace back, but karma is a beast. There's still one kitten left in the house. Heidi makes it back to town, ditches her fancy boots, and sprints up the mountain. She stops by Peter's house to drop off the soft bread for his grandma, then tosses her fancy dress and finally reunites with her grandfather in a huge hug. Heidi falls right back into her mountain routine, but there's a change. Grandpa agrees to let her go to school. During the winter, they move into a house in town. The local teacher is way stricter than the one in Frankfurt, but Heidi doesn't mind. The other kids laugh at her when she says she wants to be a writer, but Heidi is actually doing great in her studies. She writes to Clara all the time, telling her how much she misses her. The letters work! Grandma Seesman packs up a caravan of servants and brings Clara up to the Alps for a surprise visit. Grandma asks Alphoe if Clara can stay for a few days. He refuses her money, but welcomes Clara as a guest. Now it's Heidi's turn to show Clara how to really live. Clara ditches the fancy layers, eats with her hands, sleeps on hay, and sees her first shooting star. Peter, however, is incredibly jealous. He feels replaced and refuses to join them. One morning, Peter finds Clara's wheelchair outside. In a fit of rage, he pushes it off a cliff and watches it smash to pieces. Grandpa figures out what happened, but he doesn't let it ruin the day. He carries Clara on his back up to the high meadows. Clara is mesmerized by the flowers and a tiny butterfly that lands on her foot. When the butterfly flutters away, Clara is so desperate to follow it that she, to everyone's shock, actually stands up. She's wobbly, but with Heidi and a regretful Peter helping her, she starts to take her first steps. When Clara's dad comes to pick her up, he's in a typical grumpy mood, complaining about the mountain air. But his jaw drops when he sees Clara walking toward him on her own 2 feet. In the end, Grandma Seesman gives Heidi a beautiful notebook and a pen. She tells her to ignore the haters and keep writing. After a tearful goodbye to Clara, Heidi heads back to her life with Peter and Grandpa, but now she's got her notebook in hand, ready to write her own story every single day.